Hey there, it's Kat Kinsman, Executive Features Editor at Food & Wine, and this fall, we're launching the new Food & Wine Classic in Charleston with our partners at Southern Living and Travel + Leisure, and we want to see you there. Join us September 27th through the 29th to learn from iconic chefs, share a glass with innovative wine experts, and experience Charleston with one-of-a-kind events. Tickets are on sale now at foodandwine.com/Charleston Classic. That's foodandwine.com/Charleston Classic. See you down in Charleston.
Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything, especially when it comes to beef. In Northern Australia, there's a different approach to raising high-quality beef. Westholme, based in Queensland and Northern Territory, is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Westholme stewards 16 million acres of rangeland guided by their natural ecosystem. They're led by a belief that if they balance the needs of their cattle with the needs of the environment, both can thrive. Westholme's team of rangeland experts and nature managers use a variety of tools to monitor and respond to the welfare of the environment, like satellites that assess grass health and on-the-ground research. Cattle are happier when they have the freedom to forage and explore, so Westholme ensures that they can roam wild, foraging at will for the first 2 to 3 years of their lives. Their cows graze on native grasses like Mitchell grass, which is only found in Australia, along with dozens of other plants, herbs, and seasonal legumes. The result is a high-quality Wagyu beef that reflects the terroir of Northern Australia and a flavor suited to complement any cuisine. Westholme believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that sing. It's gonna get you sun in the air.
Welcome back to The Speakeasy. I'm Damon Boelte.
And I'm Greg Benson. And Damon, you're back, man. It's been a minute. Where in the world has Damon San Diego been?
Everywhere but San Diego, basically. Geez, last week I was in Chicago, Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati, Denver, and back. And, okay, so I had to, I flew into, I had this rental car situation where, I was trying to be budget friendly.
I already love this story, by the way. Continue.
Being budget friendly, for expenses and whatnot. And, I had a hard, I was supposed to connect in Chicago to go to Indianapolis. I was supposed to get there a day early. I was working with Skurnick Wine and Spirits, with King Floyd's, going around and visiting accounts and what they call OKI, which is Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. So, that was the Indianapolis, and Louisville and Cincinnati, all kick-ass cities. I had never been to Indianapolis or Cincinnati. Lots of time in Louisville. I ended up getting, I had a connecting flight in Chicago, and I got stuck there for the night. But luckily, I had some great friends there and got to see some of the town because I wasn't otherwise going to get to hang out there. I was just connecting. So I was actually pretty happy about it. Same thing happened to me like a couple weeks ago when I was traveling. I was in Atlanta, connecting through Dallas. Hadn't hung out in Dallas in a while. Got stuck there at a connecting flight, so I had to stay the night. But anyway, so I finally make it to Indianapolis on Tuesday when I was supposed to get there on Monday. My suitcase I didn't have, so wearing the same clothes, smelling like all the bars. It doesn't matter how much you shower. You're going to smell like Malort after, days after you left Chicago. And
that's Malort with a whiff of beef. That's just kind of that's exactly the to Chicago. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way.
Exactly. So I get to Indianapolis and I've got a rental car, and it's a just an economy, whatever the cheapest one is. And I'm already like, I'm at the beginning of my week, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm already kind of over this week. But I get it to the, Hertz rental, and the guy's like, do you want to upgrade? I'm like, dude, yeah, I'm already having a rough week. Like, you got any Corvettes or anything? And he's like, no. He's like, but I've got a bright red Dodge Challenger. And I'm like, how much? And he's like, type. It's going to be 200 for the week. I was like, no, I can't do that, man. On top of the already like $400 it was going to be. So I'm like, can you do 40? Just like joking. And he's like, let me check. And he like, walks to the other room, talks to his manager, which he just walked in there, spun around a couple of times and walked back. And he's like, sure. So I was like, I'll just pay that out of my own pocket. So I got to drive around the Midwest in a bright red Dodge Challenger so I was rolling around doing tastings with the sales reps from Skurnik and the sales director. So awesome people. I've always been a huge fan of Skurnik. So I was riding around with them. I wasn't going around tasting cocktails and driving around in this very obvious automobile that like it's just asking to be pulled over in bourbon country. It's like totally insane. But it kind of turned my week around. And sometimes you just got to do those things. So yeah, I've just been out, doing the thing. And so thanks. I mean, this is why we have co-hosts. This is why I brought on Sother, and then Greg came on. Sother's unfortunately having technical difficulties today, or he's having a schedule conflict. So this is why we have multiple guys on the show nowadays. So we can, continue to do the show when things go down. But, speaking of Skurnik, there's, I've been lucky enough to work with Skurnik as a buyer and as a friend and a supplier throughout the years. And, some of my favorite brands I've gotten to go on trips with. It's one of the perks of sometimes when you work in this industry and you're like running a bar program or you own a bar like I do. And sometimes you get to go on these cool trips to visit distilleries, wineries, breweries, and whatnot. And one of those people who's involved with Skurnik is our good friend who's been on the show several times, Ben Jones, Rhum JM and Clement, which I actually happen to have both. I was on a trip back in I think we said 2016 or 17, and I brought back a lot of rum that it's very rare, and some of them they kind of brought to the market, and I've got two of them in front of me. This one actually, I'm looking at the date on it, Ben, and it says 2015, so that might have some. Just for the listeners, I'm trying to figure out 2016. There.
That's 2016.
So it would have been 2016. Okay, right. Cool. So, you hear Ben Jones. Welcome back to the show, Ben. And we're going to be talking about some of your products today, some new stuff. And we're going to kind of jump in and talk about some of these older products. This is the Clement Con Bleu. And we're going to pour a little bit just because, whatever. It's 9 a.m. somewhere. That is.
The charm of life of Damon Boelte continues.
I'm not driving a red Dodge Challenger after this either. So, but yeah, cheers, buddy, and welcome back to the show.
Cheers.
So 2016 is when this 2015 would have come out. It's a rare Martinique only Clement. For the people who are fans of the show on Patreon, you get to watch the show rather than just listening to it. So that's what I'm holding here into the camera. As you can see right here, I don't know if you can tell, but 2015. And so Ben showing you.
I'm showing you.
Is that the newer bottle?
Well, no. So Damon, what you have is pretty exceptional. What you and I are both enjoying is a vintage white rum agricole. It was a little concept, little project that we just played around with back in 2000 for the millennium. To Ken Bleu, the blue sugarcane varietal is rare. I would say it's a blending varietal. It's very, very aromatic. You don't get a lot of sugarcane juice yield to make a lot of rum with, but it's very, very flavorful, very, very aromatic. And so, we had the idea, we'll just do a model varietal. And in Martinique, every year since it was, I don't think it was supposed to be an annual project, but it is now. And every year locally in Martinique, they do. So that when you say the vintage of 2015, that means that sugarcane was grown and harvested in the spring of 2015, and then it was distilled about 6 to 9 months later. And we're declaring the vintage of when the sugarcane was harvested. And so if you were there in 2016, that would have been the new bottle that would be on the market. And in Martinique, every vintage it's a custom, unique bottle. Actually, I think I have that bottle. I have a collection of all of the basically the vertical vintages. Here in the United States, we could never change the bottle every year. That would just be just far too more complicated. So I have the same liquid here, and we made a more traditional rum bottle. We don't declare the vintage. There's a few things you guys probably have talked to lots of different brand owner type people, and maybe you've heard this before in your show, but the United States and their beverage laws and their regulations and their rules, some of them don't always make sense. Like, you can't declare vintages, you can't do this, you can't do that. So that's why you have that bottle and I have this bottle. But it's the same.
Well, it's kind of, yeah, I know. And it's kind of confusing, right? Because then there's like, things like Armagnac, where you can go to your local or favorite liquor store and you can find your birth year or a gift for someone of their birth year. It's like one of those things that's like kind of a quick, easy secret weapon gift. If you're on your way to someone's birthday party and you forgot to get them something, you can find something with their birth year on it. But, that's where it gets confusing, because I know that like Old Forester birthday bourbon, they used to have the year on it, and then they got in trouble for that. So now because the color's different every year, and you go on the website and figure out what year it is. But yeah, I think it's cool. Like with this, having that on it.
But that's the thing, is like, that's why, like, the U.S., I would say, is a little bit misinformed, because probably for bourbon, and I can tell you for rum, they just didn't think there was such thing as vintage Captain Morgan or vintage, Jack Daniels or something like that. Not to say anything bad about those brands, but like they only know what they've known for generations was, okay, there's vintage wine and there's vintage Armagnac, but they just haven't advanced, I don't think, forward to see it transcend across other spirits.
Speaking of advancing
let's
forward,
back up a little bit.
I want to just do this real quick, Greg. I've got a little wedge of lime here, so I'm going to just squeeze that just a tiny bit into this rum, and I've got a little bit of syrup here, just a tiny bit. And now I have a tea punch in front of me, and you said what's it called again?
Oh yeah, the first tea punch. The first tea punch of the day in Martinique is the décollage. It's the takeoff.
Décollage. Okay, that's what we're doing here. We're taking off. We're blasting off, Ben. All right, Greg, go for it. You were saying.
No, I'm honestly, I'm not sure which of us is more of a go-getter. Like you at 9 a.m. with a tea punch, or me at noon on the East Coast, like still on my second cup of coffee, being like, any minute now it's going to kick in. Any minute now I'm going to be firing on all cylinders. I just know it. Ben, I definitely wanted to back up a little bit, because you've got kind of a fascinating personal family connection with Rhum Agricole and the island of Martinique. So I'd love to hear a little bit, kind of give us your Marvel superhero origin story as a person working with these awesome rums.
Well, thank you. And by the way, I will back up. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Damon, and with Greg and Sother. I know you're out there. I saw you a minute ago. But my personal connection is that my mother is French, from Martinique, but I was raised by a single mother as an only child. And so our trips, our vacations, or whatever they were when I was younger, was to go off to the motherland, to Martinique, to be with, my cousins and uncles and aunts and what have you. That's also, I grew up in Maine, so it's a great place to go when you want to get away from the Maine winter.
Those are different climates. Yes.
And I mean, I remember I was very sharply influenced from a very, very young age about overall French Creole culture. And I think there was that huge difference between like where I was growing up in Maine, and I grew up on a farm in rural Maine, to like go to the Caribbean. And I remember I was like, from the first day awestruck that, this is my family, and it's like, obviously they're speaking different languages and just different cultures and different things, and I was touched, and it goes beyond the rum, but like Damon and I were just bantering about with your first tea punch of the day. Like tea punch, for example, is so deeply rooted as part of the ritual or the habitual lifestyle in Martinique. And, I remember getting my sort of first tea punch class, when I was like 6 or 7 years old, about how to make a proper tea punch for my mother when I would get home, and by my uncle, and witnessing the debate between my mother, and my uncle at the time, who was the master distiller at Clement, where, she likes a little ice in hers, and he was like so deeply offended that she would even think about diluting her drink, and that kind of goes into like we have this expression which translates from French to English as each one prepares their own death. So like that's what I mean to say is like it's so cultural, it's so realistic, it goes beyond the rum, and all this thing was all the puns intended mildly intoxicating for me, and I've been hooked ever since. About 20 years ago now, I was fortunately I kind of stumbled into the beverage alcohol industry. I was in craft beer and wine and whatnot, and then through a long, boring sort of family conversation, I learned and understood that there was an ambition for Clement to come to the U.S., and I was already in the industry a bit, and I was like raised my hand as high as possible to say, yo, can it be me? Can I help? What can I do? And that sort of has, catapulted me 20 years later, where we introduced Rhum Clement. We started talking not just about the brand a lot, but a lot about the category, rum agricole, the tea punch, all of those type of things to really, I say quite frequently, like we don't just import the rum, we import the culture. And Rum Jam came a few years later, and that sort of helped galvanize and push the category forward. And I think that helped open the doors for other brands from Martinique and from Guadeloupe and now from Reunion Island, from the Indian Ocean, where you see, I think there's like a 9, 10, 12, I don't know, agricole rum brands, in the market. When we now operate under the umbrella of Spiritbaum. We sort of transcended out of Clement USA as we've sort of diversified and grown a little bit. We've always been really focused on rum. About 8 years ago, we got involved in St. Lucia Distillers, and we're bringing the St. Lucian rums, which are really, really, really different rums from the ones, of course, that we make in Martinique, rum agricole, which again sort of really helps sort of gild my love and passion for rum, because those two islands, they're neighboring islands, St. Lucia and Martinique. There's 33 nautical miles in between them, but one's making rum from molasses, the other one's from sugarcane juice. One's very, very specifically French in style. The other one is, I would say, called English Caribbean style, pot still, column still, blending it together, spiced rum, rums of, for different usages for cocktails and daiquiris to sipping and all that stuff. And so I would say we always stay deep with our roots in rum, and then as we've continued to diversify and grow a little bit, we're now playing in the sandbox with French spirits, which is not a huge reach because we're a French company from French Martinique. So we have Joseph Cartron now, which is a beautiful fine line of mixing cordials, liqueurs from Burgundy, and we just started importing cognac, Hardy cognac last year. And
oh wow,
and
that's cool. Yeah. I had the pleasure of going to Maison Hardy. Probably was like 2010, or it was shortly after I started the show, because it was a press trip, and I was there with Paul Picoult and Paul Clark and a bunch of Donnie Ronan, a bunch of really cool people. Like that was my favorite distillery of all the cognac distilleries we went to. It was Hardy. So
you're probably hanging out with Benedict.
That's really
Benedict.
Yeah, she was so charming.
So she still is so charming.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's cool. I mean, God, I was just gonna say that, with the spirits that you touch, I like with Clement and JM and the St. Lucia rums, which I also really love. It's not surprising to me that Artie is like one of the brands that you have in your portfolio, because you're very good at keeping things classic and classy, but understanding the real value and the richness of each brand. You didn't get into rum because of tiki drinks. It's like you got into it because, like you mentioned, the culture of Martinique, which I got to witness firsthand. I mean, it was the first thing we did was go to Demoiselle, and that was on Guadeloupe, and I was just like, man, this air is so thick and grassy, and I was like, man, this is so different than any other place that I've been to before. And I don't know, I didn't realize. I know we've talked about a lot of this stuff, you and me in person, but I guess we haven't touched much on the show in the past. But I didn't realize it's been 20 years now. That's amazing.
I didn't realize that either until like this year.
Until you just said it.
I mean,
man.
Yeah, I mean, like I can tell you that January 4th, 2005, my New York distributor shipped the first case that I sold to an account, and I remember the bar. I remember Ben Score was the buyer. So for some of us out there, you know Ben Score, longtime industry friend. Yeah, I mean, so, but I was, that's when it started for me.
It was just a different, but it was like a totally different industry back then too. I mean, like that, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the American whiskey craze of the 2000s to me was what kind of ushered in, I don't know, personally, that's kind of how I got into a lot of aged rums, and, you know, just one barrel aged thing to another, I guess, is kind of like that was the kind of conduit there. But it's a tricky time to like get into very unique, you know, agricole rums.
No, Damon. Damon, it was the American whiskey craze. It hadn't even happened yet, but it's like let me help put a timestamp on it. So I officially started working on the Clement project, you know, to get into the United States in 2004. That was the same year that Grey Goose sold from Sidney Frank to Bacardi for like $2.4 billion. And it was like the biggest mega deal like that anyone's like really ever seen for like a singular, like quote unquote startup brand. You know, now we've seen hundreds of them, but like it was definitely a white spirits market. When I moved to New York to like try to get this thing going, nobody had cocktail menus. They had martini lists.
Right.
And it was like all about the Cosmopolitan. Sex and the City was like all the rage. And everyone was saying that, you know, ultra premium high-end white rum was going to be the next big ticket for white spirits because it was the spirit category that had the most play in more cocktails. And then you saw brands like Teague come along and Orinoco and a lot of big companies come and they've come and gone. But I don't think the market was ready for all that flavor. They just weren't ready for like that real authenticity, that flavor, what rum was all about. And then sure, yeah, as you said, you know, the American market went to brown spirits and American whiskey, and then now agave is having their moment. And I think for the last 20 years, we've all been saying like, you know, this is going to be rum's year. And I'm still here.
Yeah. Does that ever get frustrating?
Yeah.
Do you ever, I don't know. It's like the, like a Cleveland Guardians fan being like, this is going to be our year. And then it's never your year. Like, how do you, you know, steel yourself for another summer of getting it out there? Because I mean, you know, I was really excited to have you on the show because I love agricole rums. They're one of my favorite spirits on the entire planet, but I also recognize that they're wildly underappreciated. So it sounds like you might have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder about the fact that it's good, but it's not really being embraced. Am I reading the room?
I mean, you're reading the room, but I'm saying like, I don't want to be compared to a Cleveland Guardians fan. I would say I'm more like a Rex.
Sorry to any Guardians fans.
I'm more like a Wrexham fan, and thanks to my friend Ryan Reynolds, who's like taking that team from whatever it was, the third or fourth division up to the second division. It's going to take some time. I certainly don't have the. I'm not spending money like Ryan is on his team, but my point is that like. It's one step at a time. It's one bottle at a time. We're telling the story. We've been so fortunate that the bartender community has embraced the category and some of our brands, and that's the greatest mouthpiece. You know, I when I look at a bartender, I look at a pharmacist who, you know, prescribes and explains, you know, what they're doing to help us all live better lives. And you know, what the next sort of tipping point that has to happen is to get into the mindset of like, let's say the quote unquote the general mainstream consumer, because you know, just because, and we'll get there. I'm quite confident that we're going to get there. And as we said, yeah, it's been 20 years, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm still young enough. I'm still having fun. Honestly, if it wasn't fun, then we wouldn't be talking today.
Well, rum is inherently fun, I think, But he said 20 years. I was thinking about 20 years ago. I was working at Linnell's.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn,
which is right when we first met.
Yeah, exactly. Damn, we've been friends for 20 years. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. And then you were at Prime Beats.
Pumping some like applause. I was there after Linnell's, and but that's why I said the bourbon craze, because we were like the bourbon shop. But like that's still kind of
because you guys were the bourbon shop, meaning the only bourbon shop.
Yeah, I remember like it was hard to sell Van Winkle Family Reserve rye because people are like, "Oh my God, why would I spend $40 on this when I can get Jim Beam, Overholt, or Rittenhouse for $15?" Like, why would I spend $40 on a fucking rye?
If I ever go back in time, I'm going to buy Van Winkle in Bitcoin. That's and I'm just going to fully Back to the Future too and live like a king for the rest of my life.
But I remember working at this shop, and like that was the first place I saw JM and Clement. We were early adopters of it, and I was so caught up in the groundswell of what would become like the bourbon craze. I guess we were definitely ahead of the curve with that shop. But I remember it being the first place. And I remember Linnell talking about, like, she was like, you know what we're going to do this year for Christmas? We're going to shut down the shop and go to Martinique for a week. And I was like, Martinique for a week? And we're just going to drink rum? We can do that? I was like, where are we going to go? She's like, we're going to hang out with Ben Jones and we're going to go to JM and Clement. And of course, we never did it. But eventually,
she did it with her Alabama shop, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, man, but
I know.
That was her advice. That was her dream to do that, but yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad she did. She's doing awesome stuff down there in Birmingham too. But yeah, I mean, like now I just opened. This is the Rum Jam Vito. Yeah. If anyone can see that. So, I mean, speaking of that transition from like white spirits to aged spirits. Ooh, that's a pretty label.
Yeah, so Damon, I was telling you before, like that bottle that's in your hand has been now replaced with this one. So you've got some vintage spirits there. Okay. But this is the Terroir Volcanique.
Yeah.
And this is, we just launched this about a year and a half ago on Earth Day of 2023. Since you've been, I mean, you saw it happening when you were there, but we're out there and we can back it up as Rhum Jam is now one of the most sustainable distilleries in the world. And we've got this whole Eden project, and I can spend hours talking about it. But the Terroir Volcanique, really the way we treat the barrels, we have our own cooperage on site and whatnot, where we're conditioning the barrels to create and invoke, terroir-driven flavors from, the natural harmony between the sugarcane. And then, of course, the way we're conditioning the barrels to get that smoky flavor to bring that volcano sort of character to, again, not just importing the rum, but importing the place, importing the culture.
Right. What else grows there? I mean, I remember like going out into the field and like I had like this giant machete and like we were chopping up cane, but I remember specifically seeing just like I love bananas. I remember seeing just a metric shit ton of bananas growing everywhere. You have a new product, right?
We do.
We've got the
yeah. So what else grows there? We have what else, to answer quickly your question? Yeah. What else grows there? Wildly chocolate in the jungle there and some other stuff. And we've actually now, we've launched a line of bitters from Rhum Jam as well. So like we have a 35-acre garden of growing all of our own aromatics and stuff for the bitters. But you mentioned the bananas. And so yes, Rhum Jam, we grow bananas. Also at Rhum Clement, we grow bananas. And so this year, I got the bottle right here. This is the Clement Bana Canne. And so it's a banana liqueur. Super, super proud of how it came together. Also kind of was, let's say, conceived on another kind of bartender trip to Martinique. It was one of those serendipitous things that I've always wanted to see happen, and just kind of happened organically, where I had the idea, like, we're growing bananas, we have the sugar cane, what have you, we're making rum, why don't we do more with the bananas? And well, the bananas are sold and shipped off to supermarkets in France. But like, what I needed to happen was somebody else besides me, like, recommend this idea. And so on one fateful trip with about, let's say 20 bartenders from the United States after like a similar experience that you just shared, saw the bananas, and we're rotating the crops, the banana crops with the sugarcane crops. And we do show, what we're doing with the industry, and the bananas part really helps demonstrate, that Martinique is France, it's part of the European Union, it's first world. And we explain, the uncompetitive production advantages, the fact that, labor wages are higher in Martinique than in other, poorer countries, and social labor, welfare, what have you. We provide free healthcare and free education and all those things. So my point is that like when it transcends down to, cost of production, like, bananas were at a very, very, very large competitive disadvantage versus the rest of the, global banana economy, let's say, industry. But what else can we do with these bananas, particularly the fact that like just in the process of working and growing, cultivating bananas so that they are market ready, you actually lose about 20% waste just because of blemishes and using and what could happen. And we were, sending that waste off to compost and to pig farms and whatnot. So it was like, why can't we use this waste for something more like, with more culture, more traditional, more towards our realm? And finally, I just needed a couple other bartenders to kind of ring that bell at a dinner with the CEO of the company, where it was like, it wasn't just my idea, but a bunch of people were like, oh my God, if you had like a banana liqueur that was like, all local and this and that and whatever, and all this rum, and tell this story, like I buy pallets of it. I make all these banana spritzes and banana daiquiris and banana old fashions. I could probably, and finally it was like, the CEO guy looks at me like, oh, we should do that. I'm like, I've only been saying that for the last couple of years, but because all these guys came down here, and so it was really kind of that for me, like that dinner in Martinique on the beach was kind of where I was like, it was like that aha moment. But that was again 5 or 6 years ago. It took us. The key to it was that we collaborated with a local Martinique woman who had started a company called Catalyse, and she has a cosmetic company where she's making makeups and creams and lotions and all that stuff. But all of the product is the foundation is the waste of Martinican bananas, and her brand, it's about 10 or 12 years old now, is like definitely cemented itself as a high-end luxury French cosmetic company boutique, from Martinique with these like green initiatives and sustainability initiatives. And we worked with her as a consultant where she helped her and her team, helped us to work with how to extract the flavors and the consistency and whatnot to work with our own banana produce, and get the flavor profile, the aromas, everything we wanted out of it. I mean, we played with different proofs. We had banana liqueurs that that we produced that were brownish in color, yellowish in color. This one is particularly transparent, which I really pushed for. I thought that was really important because I think bartenders like to make whatever cocktails they want and don't have to compensate for colors and the ingredients that they don't want. So I'm not sure if it's the only one, but I think most banana liqueurs out there have some sort of color to it. This one's transparent. It's gorgeous. It's 25% ABV. All the bananas are sourced on the island of Martinique, and we can say right now that about 60% of all the bananas are actually grown at Habitation Clement, and we're making our own. So we're distilling the bananas. They're still not fully ripened, but we're distilling the bananas, that waste that I was talking about before, to get that banana flavor, that banana essence that we're then blending in with rum agricole and some sugar, and it's a beautiful orange liqueur. Banana liqueur. But what we did do at the same time, so I mean, for the people that are watching at home, this is our new beautiful bottle for the Bana Canne. Most people know it's for the Creole shrub. So we also repackaged the Creole shrub. Yeah. That's an 80 proof orange liqueur, very, very popular in Martinique. And then our Clement Mahina Coco, the coconut liqueur. And we created this bottle from scratch, with a bottle designer. And in doing so, we sort of have a strategy that we're playing with, and the idea is to separate the liqueurs of Clement and give them their own spotlight, and then the rhums be the rhums of Clement, and just not to really confuse or muddy the waters between the liqueurs of the portfolio and the rums, and try to keep the communication straightforward on behind the rum brand.
Man, I think it's cool that, like you said, you took the color out of that banana liqueur because mostly they're like kind of like a tannish to yellowish color. But I love, like, if you can make a drink just clear, and I always say that when it comes to food and drinks, with food, the first sense you use is olfactory because you can smell the food cooking. You walk into a restaurant, you smell food. You can smell cooking in the kitchen, you like at home, And so, like, your food better smell pretty damn fucking good, like make it smell good. When it comes to drinks, the first sense you use is visual, right? So you see the cocktail being made at the bar, you see it being delivered, it's in front of you. And then when you get closer, you can use your olfactory and then eventually taste, and texture. But there's something really cool to me. Like, as soon as you were talking about the clarity of that banana liqueur, I'm like, oh man, how sneaky is that? Like, to have like a really just like elevated, like banana, like martini kind of that's like, or even just like using like a Cristalino tequila with like that clear banana liqueur, like just like having something that like it's kind of a I don't know, a visual trick, like just to like I don't know, I just like, because it's like kind of like a clarified milk punch, right? It's something where you're like, I don't know what to expect flavor wise from this. So I think that's really cool. I don't know. That's just one little tidbit.
My little tidbit to add is that, so we launched the banana liqueur June 1st, like in New York City. We had a party on June 3rd. We had a couple of people from Martinique come up. And when I had the people from Martinique come up, I asked, Teague and Dale, who work with us in New York and represent our brands. I said, I want to show the people from Martinique, a little bit in New York. 2 out of the 4 people had never been in the United States before. So they were like all like starstruck with like, oh, New York, the city that never sleeps, and I want to see the cocktail bars and all that stuff. And so I said, let's get, these people are here for the launch. Like, let's get, Bana Canne in as many, cool accounts and see what people are doing with it. And that was, even for me, it was an eye-opening experience. Like we're on like a 2 or 3 day little cocktail blitz tour, like just checking out places, showing these people like, New York and all its finest. And man, like, I had an espresso martini with banana liqueur. I had an old fashioned. I had, of course, all the banana daiquiris. That was kind of like an easy one, but like, and spritzes. That's our cocktail that we're going out there with as a spritz, because it's like, a little bit of nutmeg and banana. It's if people are into that low ABV thing, and let's I want to play in that playground. I think it's a fair playground to be in.
There's so much you can do with banana. It's not, I think for a lot of time, people thought it would be a very specific banana thing, but it blends so well with so many different flavors. And as Adam Birnbach from Washington, D.C. Has famously said for many years, it's a riff on a quote from Arrested Development. There's always money in the
There's
banana.
always money in the banana stand.
There's always money in the banana cocktail. Always money in the banana cocktail. And
that's the name of the episode right there, man.
That's it.
Yeah, totally. Big shout out to Adam Birnbach. He for years and years, all the bars that he's run, he's always had, like, every menu always has a banana cocktail on it, and I always just give him a big old applause for that. So I know we're getting towards the end of this show, man. Again, like, I kind of like. I love the idea of spritzes, and like you mentioned, low ABV. There was I guess it was back over the winter, Greg, when we did Shaker and Spoon, or was it last summer?
That was last fall. That would have been coming up on a year ago. That was last September, where we had a little pandan. You had a little pandan flirtation, actually.
Pandan
in that box.
The banana pandan gin and tonic, and it was so good, and like, I don't know. I just think that there's so much you can do with banana, and I love just like a light gin and tonic with a light influence of, whether it's pineapple or, anything tropical works in a gin and tonic. It doesn't have to be deep brooding, just heavy on the juniper. It's like, it should be light and refreshing. As you had mentioned, Toby Cicchini or the Cosmopolitan in the early 2000s kind of running the show with Sex and the City. And I always loved that story at the beginning of the book Cosmopolitan by Toby Cicchini, the Cosmo guy. He talks about, in the very beginning, he talks about his father being Italian, teaching him how to make a proper gin and tonic. And he talks about making a giant, it basically makes a pitcher of gin and tonics. And then they sit and just like sip on them for, the afternoon or the evening, watching the sun go down. But he always said that, like, making it a little bit lower ABV, and it was like the key. It's more about the sessionable kind of aspect of that cocktail or those cocktails. And I think there's something to be said, and maybe I'll bring this full circle back to the tea punch, which we started with, the dégagage, which I kind of churched this one up with the VO rum jam. I put a little bit of this lime cordial that I have in front of me, made a little bit of a tea punch here. And, you were saying that everyone chooses their own, everyone chooses their own death.
Or, exactly. Each one prepares their own death.
Each one prepares their own death. So, it's definitely by preference, but, I have in the past, like when I came back from Martinique, I was like all about tea punch, still am. And I love the fact that it's like one of those drinks that, after being there, especially, with the custom ice craze happening 10 years ago when we were there, I was just like, oh my God, for once, I don't have to worry about one part of the bar program. Like, there's not even going to be ice in this. And it's kind of like one of those things where, like, some people drink hot coffee in the summer and cold coffee in the winter because the temperature goes together. But when you're in like 1,000-degree heat and 1,000% humidity on the island, it's like, what, let's just go with what's gonna happen here. And I think that, making a tea punch with like the banana or the Creole shrub is like, what grows together goes together, right? So It makes total sense to me, and I can't wait to try. I know I'm in California, so the guy's got the banana, but I will get some soon, and I can't wait. The first thing I'm going to do is make a tea punch with probably both of these rums, and I'll just give you my notes, which I'm sure you don't even need.
No, they're going to be awesome. Just text me, but your box is in the mail. I mean, like, that's where we were. What grows together goes together, and quite literally, our bananas and our sugarcane are growing together. We're rotating the crops, and so they should probably be in the same bottle.
Yeah.
So I know we're a little late for this summer. This is brat summer, as we all know. But are we calling it right now? Is next summer banana summer?
I hope so.
Okay, good. You heard it here first on the Speakeasy. More breaking news from your number one source.
I'm going to go out so far as 2025 is banana year.
Ooh, okay, all right.
I'm not limiting it to one season. It's like, and what's the color? It's like periwinkle. What's the Pantone of the year or something like that? But it's gonna be the year.
The tone of the year is C sharp.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gonna be banana leaf and it's gonna be banana liqueur, banana flavors. 2025 is that year's bananas.
Great. Fuck dry January. Start early.
There should be a tropical zodiac calendar, where it's like it's like instead of the Chinese zodiac where it's like a different animal, it's like every year it's a different tropical fruit. Like it's the year of the banana, it's the year of the papaya, or whatever.
Yep.
Can we start that? Is that also breaking news, Greg? Did we just invent something?
I think that is breaking news. Yeah. And actually, you know what? Yeah. Next year, 2025 is the year of the snake, which kind of looks like a banana. So there you go.
We also have snakes in Martinique. So they're in those Perfect. Banana trees.
Yeah. And I guess this is I guess I would make this the year of the dragon, or the dragon fruit, alternatively. Whichever zodiac you subscribe to. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, guys.
It's good to get serious here on the Speakeasy every now and again, guys, and really tackle the serious issues.
Totally.
So Ben, if people wanted to follow along with what you've got going on at Rhum Clement and Rhum JM and these awesome liqueurs, which I got a chance to sample when y'all were in New York recently, by the way, in there, I'll do banana on everything, but it was quite tasty. So I appreciated the multiple free samples that I got of it. But if people wanted to follow along and track your progress and see what else you're working on, where would be a good place for them to follow?
I mean, well, each individual brand has its own Instagram site. Rhum Clement USA, Rhum Jam USA, Chairman's Reserve Official. Everything is all consolidated at the Spearbomb Instagram, Spearbomb Instagram, and of course websites, spearbomb.com. All the brands have their website. Go on your favorite search engine, put in any of the brands, put in Spearbomb, you'll find everywhere. We're basically on the traditionals, the Instagrams, the Facebooks. We haven't cracked the code on TikTok or Snapchat yet, but
we're too old for TikTok and Snapchat. It's not for us, and you know what? That's
fine too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. This has been awesome catching up, Ben. It's like, again, I'm glad that the fact that you have already Sherman's for there, like these liqueurs are awesome. I feel like you've always been really great about like doing really meaningful work, and there's no like cash grabs at any moment. It's just like, all right, this is good. This is quality. We're going to take our time making this happen, and then that's it. And we're going to have the most kick-ass product. So I'm glad to see, and there was no doubt in my mind that would ever stray. But yeah, I'm just really, really excited to catch up and hear about the new stuff. And yeah, man, that's all I got to say about that. I've got this tea punch, my second tea punch. Is there a French word for the second tea punch of the day, or is it just called breakfast?
I would just say you just have to now maintain your cruising altitude for the rest of the day.
Yeah. All right, good. Cool, man. Well, that's it for the Speakeasy this week. Check out Heritage Radio Network for many more programs like this one. And until next week, cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
I'm Lou Bank.
And I'm Greg Benson.
And this is an ad for Ancestral Agave Syrup, the critically acclaimed award-winning syrup that helps gringo bartenders better make margaritas, Negronis,
Lou, hold up. Wait,
old
are you just
fashions?
This is how you start your podcast.
What?
It's not an ad for Ancestral Agave Syrup.
Well, of course it is. I'm just cutting costs by not paying writers to make something new. I'm just using an old script.
You pay writers?
That's some kind of jab?
No, I'm just saying that.
What are you saying?
Well, look, we've got this amazing syrup that's made in an ancestral manner, cooked down from the sap of the agave, harvested the way these families would to make pulque. It's a quality product. It deserves a quality presentation.
Yeah, okay, hang on. Ancestral agave syrup is made by real families following traditional methods. Unlike the industrial Blue Weber syrup you get everywhere else, Ancestral is cooked down from aguamiel harvested from Salmiana in Hidalgo, Mexico. It is the grade A Vermont maple to the sticky diner syrup you've been using for your cocktails. Ingredients matter, both in how your cocktail tastes and how you treat the earth. Ancestral is better for both. Is that good?
Sure. Or maybe confusing instead of cheesy. Look, just visit ancestralagave.com to learn more and to order your world-class agave syrup today.
And we'll call that a wrap. Catch you next ad, Greg.
Hasta pronto?
Ancestral Agave Syrup. Available online at ancestralagave.org and wherever Greg and Lou are able to coerce store owners into carrying it.
So you don't shun the devil with you.
The Speakeasy is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food and drink radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.